Alright, welcome back. So for strings, we're still discussing strings. So there's a bunch of tricks that Python lets you use for strings, and that makes it easier for you to incorporate them into your programs. One of them is called a string literal. So what string literal is that your string is preceded by special characters. So for example, there's something called an F string, and there's something called an R string. Alright, these aren't variables, they're just names. So how we use these is that, let's say you have a string that you're escaping characters from. So Mrs. Brown's children's toys. Right now I use double quotes, but if I were to use single quotes, then I'd have to escape the quotes in the middle. I'd have to escape this, and I'd have to escape this, so that my string doesn't get destroyed. Well, let's say I want my so the first string literal we're going to look at is the raw string, which is the R string. So I've preceded my my string with an R. What this does is that it treats these escape characters as just backslash. So everything in this string is not treated as a special character. So I could have I could run this, and I'll have it as a backslash. Now why this is double backslash? Because the R string literal, it turns these it escapes these backslashes even. So right now what this backslash is doing, it is acting as an escape character, but the raw string will escape its function as an escape character and treat it as a regular backslash for which it needs to be escaped, and that is done by the R string. So I could just do I could have another R string, and I have just pasted my original string there, and I could remove these backslashes. Now yeah, that gives an error. So your raw string does not escape these the apostrophes. So because these apostrophes are not special characters, they mark the end of a string unless you escape them. But for example, we talked about the new line. There, n, like /n, is a special character which denotes a new line, but inside a raw string it'll be escaped, and it'll just show up /n and not in a new line. So if I were to do print raw string Mrs. Brown's /n children /n toys and close string, it didn't put it into new lines. Normally, if I were to paste this here and not have the raw string, it would put it into new lines wherever it encounters the /n character. But this raw string, it escaped the /n, and it basically treated it as it's written. So this is what got printed out. So that was the R string literal. Next up is the F string literal. So F stands for format, and what this allows you to do is, let's say today's date is equal to 13, so 13 March 2021. Okay, now let's say I have a string that I want to insert the date into. So I can either do today's date is, then plus, then date, then plus, then welcome. So this is a string that I'm constructing, and in the middle of this it will have the date. So this is the output, but this can get tedious. This is called string concatenation, and you're basically joining up strings using the plus operator. But this can get tedious when you have so many different places to insert variables into, and that's where the F string comes in. So what the F string does is, I can do F, then have my string today's date is, then I'm going to leave this blank with a pair of braces, and then I'm going to continue my string welcome, close my string, and inside these braces I can just put in date, and that gives the same answer. So this is a really helpful tool for you to bypass this tedious process of string concatenation. And this at the f string literal is called string interpolation. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. There's also the format method for strings, which allows you to do the same thing. I'll show you. So for example, let's say I have a string today, date is, then I leave this blank space and I say welcome, then I close, and now I can call dot format date. Alright, so this, it will put it into the only brace that's there. But if I have multiple braces, and let's separate the date and the day. Date equals, yeah, date, and let's create a word day equals Saturday. Saturday. I can spell right. Saturday. So now if I want, I can do this with an f string. So f today's date is this and the day is this. Then I can insert my day over here and my date over here. Oh, I have double quotes, apologies. There we go. So that inserted that using the f string. But if I wanted to do this with the format method, what I would need to do is, so let's get rid of the literal format, and now the order here matters. So for example, I'm going to remove this and I'm going to remove this. Now the order I put my arguments, I pass in my arguments is the order that they're going to be inserted in. So I pass in date and then day, and I press enter, that's what I get. But if I switch those around, so I pass in date, day, the order switches around. Now if I want my order to, if I don't want to tamper with the way I pass in my arguments, I can switch around the order inside there as well. So let's say I don't tamper with the order of the arguments, but I want day to show up over here and date to show up over here. So I'm going to put 1 and 0, because this is the 0th argument and this is the first argument. So then my first argument went into the brace which had 1 in it, and my 0th argument went into the brace that had a 0 in it. So that's a bunch of ways. That's newer ways to do string interpolation. There's an older way which you might encounter using the % notation. If you're scouring the internet, you might encounter notation like this. So let's say today's date is, then there's going to be a %s to signify string, and the day is %s, and then there's going to be % and then bracket date day. So that is the same thing. It passes in, it replaces the %s's with the arguments in this bracket in the order that they're passing. But this is old notation. You might encounter it on the web, but it's recommended not to use this anymore. Anyway, that has been strings, and we're going to move on to lists now.